Welcome to my channel. Get ready for a spine-chilling experience as you listen to this horror story before you go to sleep. Turn off the lights, get comfortable, and let the eerie tale unfold. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel for more thrilling stories. Press like if you enjoy the content, and share it with your friends who love a good scare. Now, sit back, relax, and enjoy the story, if you dare. The Haunting Game. Carol sat on the floor of her dimly lit bedroom, staring at the wooden board before her. The Ouija board was old, its letters faded, and the planchette smooth from years of use. Her hands trembled as she reached for it, but she steadied herself. She had to do this. Ever since her mother's death, she had felt an unbearable emptiness inside. If there was even the slightest chance she could reach her, she had to try. Outside, the wind howled, rattling the windows of the house. The dim glow of her bedside lamp cast long shadows that danced along the walls. Carol took a deep breath and placed her fingers lightly on the planchette. The room seemed to hold its breath as she began. At first, nothing happened. The air remained still, and the silence pressed in around her. But then, a chill seeped into the room. The planchette shuddered beneath her fingertips, moving ever so slightly. Her heart pounded as she whispered a silent plea in her mind, hoping, begging for her mother's presence. The planchette jerked forward, sliding across the board with an unseen force. Slowly, deliberately, it spelled out a single word. Hello. Tears welled in Carol's eyes. It had worked. She could feel a presence, something unseen, lingering in the room. She asked silent questions in her head, and the planchette responded. The answers were comforting at first, filled with words of love and reassurance. It felt like her mother, or at least she convinced herself it was. But as the minutes passed, something changed. The answers became strange, cryptic. The air in the room grew thick, almost suffocating. The light from the lamp flickered, casting unnatural shadows. A deep sense of unease settled in Carol's chest, but she ignored it. She couldn't stop now. The planchette moved faster, spelling out sentences that didn't quite make sense. Words of despair, of suffering. Then, suddenly, it stopped. A sharp knock echoed through the room, but Carol didn't dare turn around. The shadows along the walls seemed to stretch, elongating into twisted shapes. The temperature dropped, her breath visible in the air. Then she felt it, a presence behind her. Not the warmth of a mother's love, but something else. Something cold. Something wrong. The planchette jerked violently under her fingers, spelling out a new message. Let me in. A deep fear seized her. She pulled her hands away, but the planchette kept moving on its own. The letters came faster, more desperate. Let me in. Let me in. Let me in. The lamp flickered again, then burst, plunging the room into darkness. Carol scrambled backward, pressing herself against the wall. Her breathing was ragged, heart hammering against her ribs. The silence was deafening, but she could feel it, the thing in the room with her. Then, from the darkness, came the whisper, low, raspy, right beside her ear.
You call me.
Carol clapped her hands over her ears, shutting her eyes tight. She hadn't called for this. She had only wanted her mother. The floor beneath her trembled, a deep growl reverberating through the walls. The board lay untouched now, the planchette still, but the presence had not left. It lingered, unseen, but felt a weight in the air, a creeping dread curling around her. Then she felt fingers, icy and skeletal, brush against her arm. She screamed. The door to her bedroom flew open, the force rattling the walls. The shadows twisted violently, slithering toward her. She scrambled to her feet, reaching for the light switch. The bulb flickered back to life, and just like that, the presence vanished. But something was wrong. The air still held an oppressive weight, and the darkness seemed alive, lurking just beyond the reach of the light. The Ouija board remained on the floor, motionless, but the planchette had moved, now resting over a single word. Mine. Carol backed away, her breath coming in short gasps. She wanted to believe it was over, but deep inside, she knew the truth. The thing she had spoken to was not her mother. It had never been her mother. And now, it had her scent. That night, she barely slept. Every creak, every whisper of wind against the window made her skin crawl. Shadows stretched unnaturally across her walls, moving when she wasn't looking. She could feel it waiting, lurking just out of sight, watching her. The next morning, she made up her mind. She had to destroy the board. She grabbed it with shaking hands and rushed outside. The sun had barely risen, its weak light offering little comfort. She doused the board in lighter fluid, striking a match. The flames roared to life, consuming the wood in a blaze of orange and blue. For a moment, she felt relief, but then something in the fire moved. A shape, twisting and writhing, formed in the smoke. A face contorted in rage. A silent scream. The fire crackled unnaturally, a low, guttural growl escaping the burning board before it crumbled into ash. Carol watched in horror, but she forced herself to believe it was over. She turned to go back inside, desperate to leave this nightmare behind. But as she stepped through the door, a whisper curled around her like a breath of ice.
I am not finished with you.
The lights flickered, the shadows stretched, and Carol knew with a sinking dread that this was only the beginning. This is the end of the story. If you have any horror stories, feel free to share them in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe, share, and click the like button. See you in the next video, and sleep well if you can.